like we train a lot. We train all the time. Like that's what we do. If we're not deployed, and in fact, even if we are deployed, we are still training while we are deployed, because if you're mission planning, you're working out, you're sleeping, you're eating, but you still need to go sling lead down range. You still need to talk to planes. You still need to do medical scenarios, fly drones, and all that kind of stuff, right? But it used to be, and man, you're gonna have to correct me because I'm sure I'll mess up the saying, but it used to be train how you fight, and which kind of makes sense in a way. Like, okay, well, I'm gonna train how I fight, but I think what we found is you end up fighting how you train, and that kind of goes back to that your lowest level of training. In that, no plan survives first contact, all those little sayings that you could throw in there. But
how many tactical cliches are we going to get into today?
Well,
is it all of them? Okay.
We could try.
I'm here for it. I'm 100% here for it. Yeah. You never rise to the occasion. You fall to the level of your training. There's we only train two ways here, the right way. And again, my favorite, like these sayings will get put out there and then people will like update them. Right. So it was like, well, you need to train how you fight. And really what that meant is you're throwing on, like, everything was a full dress rehearsal all the time. Like team sergeants took that to the 10th degree and they were like, all right, well, we don't go to the range unless we're wearing full battle rattle and you're shooting in that all the time. We'd have shooting instructors, like the best shooters in the world. This guy came out, he's in like, a pair of tactical pants and like a Columbia button-up shirt. And he's looking around, he's like, what are you guys doing? We're just shooting pistols today. And one of the guys on the team was like, oh, train how you fight. And he's like, well, I mean, I'd prefer that you train for a fight and you get really good at individual skills and then you can apply that, when you actually go fight. But you guys do whatever you want. And then everybody out there felt like an idiot because then you felt like you were playing dress up. And he was like, no, I just want to work on like pistol fundamentals today. And you're wearing a rucksack while you're trying to shoot a pistol. It doesn't really work. But anyway.
Yeah, well, I mean, it's that kind of, hey, you haven't even mastered the fundamentals yet, and you're just going right in there.
Right,
let's go ahead and like start a building block because, man, you really do fall to the lowest level of training or fight how you train because that goes right back into why we, like, if we're going to use, I'll just use JTAC or Joint Terminal Attack Controller scenarios, right? Regarding close air support is, we will, as instructors, we will kind of baseline and then start building on those when you're in your kind of mission qualification training, which means you're not a fully qualified JTAC yet. And then when it comes to your evaluation to get that qualification, like we ramp it up and we ramp it up a lot. And fine, you become a qualified JTAC at that point. But that doesn't mean that you don't ever get on the mic again, or you only get on the mic whenever there's an evaluation. It means that, okay, the next time you're going out to the range, because it just to get your qualification means you're safe and effective. It doesn't mean that you're like great at it or good at it. You're not going to kill yourself. You're not going to kill yourself or other friendlies. You're just going to kill or destroy the targets that you intend to. So as we start to go through there, we ramp it up a lot. And then we get to a point where like you're at failure. Like there is so much coming at you that you just cannot, you don't have the bandwidth for, you crumble, things start to fall apart. You forgot to turn off the artillery and you had A-10s fly right through the gun to target line or something like that. And that's kind of where we want to be so that you can see where your limit is, so that you kind of know when you know what that feels like, so that you can recognize it once you get to that point where you're becoming overwhelmed. And I know we don't like the term overwhelmed, because then it applies weakness.
No, how dare you? How dare you accurately describe something using a word in the English language, Peaches?
But like, and that's why we do it. And so now that you know your limit, now that you know what that feels like, and okay, I've got 12 aircraft overhead with, multi-axis troops in contact. Okay, I've kind of reached my limit there. Now we can throttle it back. And then as you get more and more proficient, your bandwidth and your ability to reprioritize, take in more information, assess the information, and then make appropriate decisions will increase. And that's not just in that kind of scenario. You could take it right back to a medical scenario where you have, you go from one patient that is just like, oh my God, how can I possibly do this? To, okay, I got multiple bleeders. I got one that's ambulatory, one that's critical. All those medical terminologies that I don't truly know. Not just throwing them out there because I know what.
Me either. I'm over here on Google trying to figure out. You don't even have an ambulance. I don't even know what that means.
Ambulatory?
Ambulatory? Yeah. Can dude walk? Hey, bro, you good? You're fine. No, we do the same thing. You go from, it's hard enough, especially for a brand new medic or a brand new PJ. It's hard enough for them to treat one critical patient, right? Because it's stopping a human from dying. It's literally the hardest thing you can do with the highest stakes that you can have, right? So that's already stressful enough. But as you go on, the only thing you have to do to that patient care scenario to really start ramping up the intensity is we just add a tactical scenario. It's hard enough to treat somebody appropriately in bright lights, on a table, in a hospital with a whole trauma team. It's hard. People still die there, right? Like, and I've seen it, unfortunately, through the career. But when you start talking about, all right, well, all you have to do is turn the lights out. Well, now you don't get the lights. And then all of a sudden, that student is like, holy crap, this is a lot harder. You don't even have to give, of course, the mass casualties are terrible. You give somebody, hey, here's 10 critical patients. You're the only person in here. You just got to figure out, like, you're literally just juggling flaming chainsaws, right? It's the easiest way to add intensity is just add volume. But really, there's a million things you can do. But that simulates, no kidding, combat environments. That's a way to turn the stress up, and that's why we do it. So people don't understand training a whole lot. Like, is there going to be a time where, you're treating because we'll put ridiculous, rules on a patient treatment scenario. As an instructor, I did it all the time. You're in a big room like this, but I'll shove a patient in the corner. I'll be like, you can't take the patient out of the corner. You have to treat them over there. You have to treat them underneath this table, standing on your head. You have to stick an IV only in their left arm. Like, we would put all these things in, and the students would be like, well, that's not really what it's going to be like. Well, I'm aware, but I can't shoot at you. I can't have other things going on inside of this room that's going to simulate combat. So what I have to do is I have to find some way to simulate stress and add stress to the scenario. But the reason that we do that is so that you have that idea of, okay, this is what it feels like to be overwhelmed. And I don't mind using the word overwhelmed. This is when you need to look at your friends and like, I need hands. I need help on this patient for you to do this. I need you to tell me what's going on with these other patients. I need you to open a litter for me. I need you to do all these things. Unless you push yourself in those training scenarios, you're not going to know what to do when the flag goes up, really, in real world stuff.
Mm-hmm. And that's actually, I think in training, that's almost where I'll just call it, you break the third wall or fourth wall, whatever you want to call it, right? Is when you're on a training event or you're getting an evaluation, you're kind of thinking, okay, it's just me. But that evaluator has actually probably intentionally placed somebody there, like an observer, an observer or whatever, hasn't made them off limits or anything like that. You're getting overwhelmed. You got all this stuff going on. All you need is some dudes to put in some work. And then you kind of pop up and you go, what are you doing right now? Right. Get on that litter. Open that litter up. Yep. Get that done. Hey, get on that soft lamb or get this up. I need new batteries. Get this up. Get that radio going. And now you start to go, oh, okay. Well, now I'm able to, like, it goes to that bandwidth thing is now I'm not only worried about myself and maybe my patients or the tasks that I've got to do, but it's like, hey, you're standing around doing nothing. And now it's almost taking a step back and being able to now delegate, go boom, boom, boom. I'm opening up my bandwidth. I'm able to now task, prioritize, and all that kind of stuff, and understand that it's not all about me and my evaluation or me and my training. I've got to be able to do that because there's a lot of times where if there is, we'll just call it a mass casualty because there's a plane crash and there's going to be locals in the area. right? And it's just you and 3 guys, but there's 15 freaking patients, and there's people that are, you know, you can get locals or people that are just sitting around observing to like, get over here, do that. Now, I will say with a medical scenario or with, maybe you're running some risks there.
Right. Well, I don't know how many training scenarios we've run where, you have role players, right? So when we do training like this, you'll have role players from other units and stuff, and they'll show up. I just always laugh because there's somebody in the Air Force that was meant to be an actor on Broadway. And now they just never got their chance. They just really wanted to serve and be part of the nation's greatest Air Force. And then that person gets into this scenario. It's always a head injury. And that person is always like doing things that a head injured patient has never done in the history of medicine. They're like screaming and they're fighting you. Like you have to zip tie somebody. Like I've never had to zip tie a casualty of mine in my life, except in training. Like I have had to, no kidding, because they're just going off and you can always tell the instructors will just stand there and they just start doing this number. Or they just start looking at the person and they're just like, oh my God, this person's going off. You're just like, they always
have a southern accent too. Hey man.
Hey, I don't know what happened. I bumped my head. Is my friend okay? What's going on? And you have to do that for 2 hours. And you're like, if you do not shut up, like we are trying to do real things right now. And you are really screwing my day up, my guy. It's the worst. And then as soon as it's over, they're like, they'll probably still have a southern accent. Oh, hey man. No, I just had they told me, they gave me a card. They said I had a head injury and I couldn't remember stuff. And I just took some liberties and I started acting a fool. I hope I didn't mess you up. And you're like, I hate you. Get away from me. Don't ever talk to me ever again.
Yeah, I remember when about a year and a half ago or whatever, you and I were up in Spokane working with the SEER dudes. That was funny. You had a good group. That was like 40 people.
That was a lot. Yeah, no, that was a really good. That was a really good training exercise. Actually,
that was good, and they did a good job. But it was funny because there was one or two that was like, "Boy, you really went ham into this, huh?"
Oh my God! Like, where did you get those clothes? Oh, I did my moulage at home on my own. Okay, weirdo. Let's take a breath. Okay, you didn't need to do that. Nope. Who asked you to do that? That's always my favorite thing. It's like I'll walk over. I'm like, hey, who asked you to do that? And they're like, well, nobody, Sergeant. I just thought that it would make sense in this scenario. Like, all right, weirdo. Take a breath, big guy.
You should note though, if you ever volunteer for a medical scenario or a tactical scenario, and you are planned to be injured in any kind of way, whether it's a broken arm or whatever, you need to wear clothing.
You need to wear wear underwear first of all. Okay. First and foremost,
you should wear underwear. Yes. And you should also, like, if clothing is not provided for you by the instructors, then don't wear something that you're going to be upset. Like I remember
that gets cut off. Exactly.
We cut that guy's nice. He had a nice jacket on apparently, and we had no idea. And
nice jacket you got there, buddy. Snip, 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 snip. See you later, bud. I will say that there's also a